Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Living African. Today, I have here with me Mandi Anyangwe, and she is a Cameroonian. And our topic of conversation is going to be a very unusual one, which I am super excited about. And it's going to be about egg freezing or egg cryopreservation. Now, basically, egg freezing is self-explanatory, but it may end up being a bit more graphic than we may think. So it's just extracting the eggs. You know, every woman should have eggs, and of course, every man should have sperm, right? And the sperm meeting the egg produces an embryo which forms a baby. Now, some women choose to take out some of their eggs and freeze because the older a woman gets, the less viable her eggs are. So some women may choose to take out some of their eggs at a younger age and freeze them for when they're ready to have a baby down the road so that their eggs will still be viable for reproduction. So basically, that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to hear from the horse's mouth from Mandi, who has actually been through that process. And I'm super excited to have you here on Living African podcast. Mandi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and good to see you again.
I know. Thank you. The last time I saw you was like almost a decade ago. Imagine.
Yes.
I
Yep.
know.
In Cameroon, we're eating fish and
I
dumplings.
know, I know, I know. That was super fun.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you again, honestly. But I am super, glad to have you on here for us to have this conversation, which I hope will be as interesting as much as informative. So let's just go straight to it. So can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and basically your story in regards to egg freezing?
Sure. I'll be more than happy to. So I go by Mandi Anyangwe. I live in New York City, and I've been in the US for well over 10 years now. And so my journey with the egg freezing process started a couple of years ago. I've had conversations with some friends, and just maybe going through some reading. I'm really very good at just doing some research about certain things. And I bumped on egg freezing, and I used to think about maybe I'll get this done someday, but I never really put any plans towards it up until when I decided to go for it. And I went through the process, and I'm going to dive into the details shortly, but that's just how my journey of that thought process started.
Right, right. And so why exactly did you decide to even have that interest about egg freezing?
Sure. So 2020, right? 2020, the year of the pandemic, the
Everything
year of
changed, right?
the lockdown, everything changed. Everything changed. So, your mindset about looking at life, in a lot of ways. 2020 gave us a lot of time to do some self-reflection.
Yeah.
2020 gave us time to actually, take interest into our personal growth, into our friendships, communicate more, because we had a lot of time to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a conversation, one of my girlfriends, shout out to Jane, she's based in Canada, Edmonton, and she was telling me her process of, she was going through some challenges, with this whole fibroid thing. And, I have a lot of family members and friends who, are going through the same process, or going through facing the same challenge. And she told me about potentially doing it, and that's where I started doing some research on it and looking at potentially doing it. And I went through, at that time I was really working at my current company, and that's Amazon. And I went through the benefit process, read through the fine print of if potentially they can cover it, and I saw that they did. So that's when I started taking much more interest and looking at potentially doing it. But at that time, still, I didn't have a timeline, but I was like, it's something I'll probably do, right? So I started reading through about why people freeze their eggs, because People do it for various reasons. Some people want to focus on their career. Some people want to do it because of health reasons. Some people want to do it because it's like an insurance policy,
Yeah.
and the latter was the reason why I did it. I decided to look at it like an insurance policy where, you just never know what will happen in a year or two. You just never know what will happen down the road. And if I'm fortunate enough for my job to cover 90% or maybe 95% of the cost, why don't I go for it, right? So that's what triggered me to really take so much interest in it.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a bold move that you made. I don't know any other person that has ever made that move, because it's something that we always think that, oh, yeah, these are things for people in the West, people who are not interested. I mean, usually, freezing eggs basically means that if you want to have a child through those eggs, it will definitely be in vitro. And in vitro, again, is another taboo topic in our community. Nobody wants to talk about in vitro. I mean, I had an older friend who had done in vitro many, many years back. And it's like, she herself did not even want the child to know that she was conceived by in vitro because they call them the test tube kids. She doesn't want the child's, she didn't want the child's self-esteem to be low because she was a test tube kid or something like that. It was so ridiculous. And, I mean, it just really goes to highlight the need for us having these conversations. We have to break that stereotype. We have to normalize these conversations. I won't want anybody calling my child a test tube child. I wouldn't want to be to be called a test tube child. We breathe the same oxygen. We have the same blood flowing in our veins. It doesn't matter how anybody was conceived. You know what I mean? So, and that has also been like a challenge for me, especially with recruiting guests to come on the show to talk about IVF. I've actually spoken to a couple of women behind the scenes who want to. Well, some of them start by having interest, and then we end up saying, they end up saying, "Oh, I want to be anonymous because I don't want people to know it's me." And I'm like, I mean, sometimes I take anonymous guests, for example, if it's like. I mean, I've had anonymous guests before, like if people are trying to protect the innocence of the children in terms of like domestic abuse or, divorce and marriages and saying things that happen, you don't want your child to look at their mother or father differently and stuff like that. I understand. But a topic like in vitro, the same reason why I'm trying to normalize this conversations is the number one source of a challenge to me, because I want us to openly talk about these conversations, but the people that want to come on want to be anonymous. So it defeats the purpose. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate you actually coming on here to talk about your story, because this would probably or possibly open up the door for more women to come up and say, but I'm not alone in this. This is something that's normal, and I don't know, did you really know about any other person that had done this before, especially in our African community, apart from you?
I had no idea. There was nobody I could use as a point of reference. I talked to a few of my close friends, my support system, and, I was fortunate that, I have a good support system, as in for girlfriends and even male friends where, they will be like, yeah, go for it. Of course, there's some people who looked at me like, this Mandi, like you're always thinking out of the box. You're always figuring things out your own way. But I personally did not see it as a taboo, like something weird. You get what I mean? Like, I saw it like another means to an end at some point, right? And, just to piggyback on what you said before about, the stereotype and how we, especially Africans, we look at things, you called out about, IVF process, how people consider kids as test tube kids. It's just the same way I've heard people talk about if having birth, you go through the whole natural birth, as we call it, and you're seen as a brave woman, who do C-section. I've actually been in a community or in a part of a conversation where a lady on aunt asked, somebody put to burn, the lady was like, was it natural, was it C-section? I'm like, why does it
What does
matter?
it matter? Yep.
You get what I mean? Like, we really, really have to change that
Yeah.
mindset. We really, really need to do better in terms of this, because I'll tell you, a lot of these kids that we call test tube kids are probably way better, smarter than
Yep.
natural kids. You get what I mean? So it's just, we just have to look at a kid as a kid. We have to look at
Yeah.
people who go take different routes, different
Yeah.
paths to achieving something. So we
Yeah.
shouldn't really, put people in a box and say they're doing this because of this. I am, going through this process, I am 100, I'm fortunate and lucky that I'm healthy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 1000% healthy. When I
Mm-hmm.
went, I'm going to walk you guys through the process eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But, I had, the doctor never said, oh, there's this, just a chance of this, or, we're concerned about this. Maybe you shouldn't do this. She actually encouraged me to
Mm-hmm.
freeze as many eggs as I want, because even if you freeze 100 eggs or 20 eggs, it doesn't change the price. It's you're
Mm-hmm.
freezing that egg, right? So um yeah, so I just want people to embrace change and
Yeah.
embrace life. The
Yeah.
world is changing, the world is innovative, there are going to be
Yeah.
new processes, new opportunities coming out for different people. So
Yeah.
let's just be open-minded to seeing things the way it is, as opposed to what we're accustomed to or what people made us think life should
Right.
be. Yeah.
Right. That's a very empowering thing to say. Thank you so much for that. And the funny thing is, you will be surprised that, even though we both don't know people in our community that have gone through this, there are actually people that must have gone through it, but they just don't want to talk about it. They're hiding it, and then they probably will talk about it with their immediate partner when they want to do it, finally, when they want to do the IVF and stuff. Like, I feel like there are many more cases of IVF in our community than we even know about, but people just, a lot of women especially, they don't want to look like they're they're weak, or even the men, they don't want to look like they can't procreate the natural way. But then again, like, natural is what the community or the society sets as a standard. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
said, it's a means to an end. It doesn't matter how you get there, it matters that you get there, right? It does. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing that's applicable to life. It doesn't matter, you want to be a doctor, you want to be whatever. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Yep.
People spend 8 years, people spend 20 years, people spend 4 years. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. So I hope that us sparking this conversation will literally open up another kind of worms for us to really take a look at ourselves in the mirror and ask if we're really honest with ourselves and the people around us, and try to use our stories to empower those around us. So going back to the egg freezing process, one of the things that I really like that you did, which a lot of us as Africans especially, we don't really take the time to do, is to actually make that informed decision, right? And to make that informed decision, it requires a lot of research. It requires us to do the work. We don't like doing research because research has not really been a big thing in our community, even growing up. We just do things because somebody tells us to do it. Like, oh, if your neighbor has done something and it's good, they're like, oh yeah, I did this thing, it was good, you should try it. But you're not really asking for your own self, like, is this really the right thing for me to do? Are they doing it the right way? Just because it worked for them, will they work for me? And things like that. So I'm glad that you did the research. And a lot of people don't really know how much, more insurance companies cover. I mean, for the egg freezing and IVF specifically, most insurance companies don't cover it, but that doesn't mean that some insurance companies do not cover it. It doesn't mean that. And fortunately for you, through Amazon, they covered it, which is a good thing.
Yep.
So and I would think that if they didn't cover it, that would have probably been a huge factor for you not going ahead to do it. So a lot of people don't end up doing things just because they're not informed. Sometimes not even because they cannot do it. They're just not informed. So being informed is very, very important. Now, can you tell us, like, did you have any drawbacks before you started this process? That was such a huge step to make. Like, were there any moments where you were discouraged, or were there any people, or just ideologies in your head, or things in your head that were talking you back, like, hey, don't do it?
Okay. Just before I answer your question, I wanted to shed some more light into a point you made about making an informed decision and doing your research.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us get hired into companies and we don't really read the fine print of,
Fine
okay, what
print.
does this company offer? What are the benefits? A lot of times, people just pick whatever the recommended insurance policy is, but you'll be surprised to know or to see what your company offers as insurance policy.
Yeah.
Some companies offer for some surgeries that you'll be shocked. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to digress, but you'll be shocked at what some companies cover. I mean, like 100%.
Living African.